You're listening to The Big Conversation.
Brought to you by the Cheshire and Merseyside Resilience Hub.
Joined by special guest.
On this week's episode, we're joined by Rachel Meadows from the UK Men's Shed Association and Eddie from the Bootle Tool Shed. Hi guys, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Nice to be here.
Good, well, welcome. So you guys have a big part to play in tool sheds, men's tool sheds. What are these?
Well, I'll answer that. So basically, men's sheds are community spaces, generally started by groups of men, but a lot of sheds do allow women, and they're just spaces where people can get together. There's usually an element of kind of craft, woodwork activity, and a space where people can meet, talk, do activity, have a cup of tea, and just kind of share skills, make projects. A lot of sheds do stuff for the community as well. So,
Oh, smashing. That's really insightful actually, because my job outside of this role, I've previously worked for communities. I've run a community shop, which was a shop in a shopping centre, and on a Friday we did it was a upcycle Friday, so we took lots of different types of thing. But the only issue is it was like a goldfish bowl because they had windows all the way around, so everyone could see what everyone was doing. And we started upcycling furniture and selling it on and giving the proceeds to local charities, local solutions as well. So it's really insightful what you say about community spaces and bringing people together, not just men but also women too, to actively meet and talk. What's your story then, Eddie?
Well, we're quite lucky that we are in a shopping centre. Our workshop is in a retail unit. We are again in what looks like a goldfish bowl, but we've done that intentionally. So our workshop is behind a glass front. So it makes it easier for people to come in and see what we do without actually having to step into the workshop.
Yeah, I think that's a really good insight. The goldfish ball, to me, when I was doing it, it was all really good, but then you was always bothered about the participants, whether they'd be seen there, and it's like bringing people together type of thing. Um, where in Bootle are you based?
We're in the Strand Shopping Centre on the lower ground floor. We are in our second unit now. Our first unit we took over in 2016. We quickly outgrew that. That is now our bike shop, which is a really, really big part of Bootle Tool Shed.
Yeah.
Bootle Bike Shop. We take in donated bikes. We work with foster services and probation services. It's not about selling bikes. It's about getting bikes to those who need them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really insightful. So, Rachel, I've got a question for you then. In terms of, say, an association for men's sheds type of thing, where did this stem from? What was the beginning of it?
yeah, so basically, the concept of men's sheds kind of originated in Australia, and I think it was I think it was about 2007 or so they started over there, and then gradually that kind of spread across the world. So in the UK, the kind of first sheds were started through Age UK, but the first community-led shed, which was kind of, like Eddie's, groups of people coming together and deciding to start their own shed. That was kind of started in 2010 down in London by a guy called Mike Jen, who's still with us today. He's one of our volunteers. And he actually started the UK Men's Shed Association in 2013. So been around for 10 years now. And the reason why he started it was, there was other sheds starting to spring up around the country, and they'd all have these similar kinds of questions or challenges about, where can we find a premises, or what information do we need, or what kind of insurance do we need. So basically Mike started the organization as a bit of a response to that, kind of a support body where sheds could kind of get that starting point from, and then it's just grown from there really. became a charity in 2015, and when Mike started, I think there was about 30 sheds around the UK, and there's over 800 today. So it's phenomenal, the growth. And yeah, we act. We're a member organisation, and we act to support sheds with information, discounts, benefits, and also really promote the concept of men's sheds.
Yeah, no, it's really insightful because when I was doing my research about support for men available, just general support, it was more prominent online about the Men's Sheds Association. So
Yeah.
when I further looked into this, it was really insightful, and um, all your website where the map and everything where you can actually find local organisations, set your own up, that type of thing. I think it's really insightful for people, and this is why I invited you on, because it's for those who might not know about it. It's a really great insight where you take something what was and make it into something what is, and a more modern aspect. And it's the concept of community and bringing people together. Like, and you just said there already, you've been around for a while and you're in your second shop now. That there is a success story within itself, isn't it?
It is. And we are being asked on a weekly basis, if not daily basis, to replicate this in other areas around Merseyside.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, due to a number of factors, there's always an issue around funding and
Yeah.
premises. But the support that we get from the national body is
Hmm.
fantastic, because we will never be the only people who've come across this. There will always be somebody in one of the other 800 sheds that have
Yeah.
done this, and they've found a resolution to a problem. And it's that support network that we as shed leaders, that helps us thrive.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I think it's that hand in hand support as well, isn't it? Available for not just for yourself, but also the volunteers that come in and get involved with it at the same
Yeah,
time.
Yeah,
Brill.
there's so much knowledge out there, and as Eddie said, there's somebody else in one of those sheds out there that will have, had that same challenge, or had an idea that might work, or whatever it is. And yeah, every shed is going to look totally different depending on the community they're in, the people that are members, the projects that they're doing. So it's there's such variation and diversity that there's something out there for everybody as well, which I think is really a nice thing.
So, us as the Resilience Hub, we provide staff members in the NHS, social care, and emergency services with psychological interventions, wellbeing support, basically getting people talking. And this is one of the reasons why I was looking in terms of external support that's available, like community support, because there's nothing bigger and more wholesome than communities coming together and supporting each other. And I think Men's Sheds, where you talked about that, about people just coming together to meet and talk, it's not directly mental health related, but at the same time, it's got a big impact on that. It's kind of like that hand holding aspect, isn't it?
The majority of our members are being referred by wives and daughters, because they're
Yeah,
the ones that see what we're going through before we realize we're going through it.
yeah.
And if you can get somebody through the door, you know, usually at the end of the day, you're having to tell them, we have got homes to go to. You know,
I think this is the thing, isn't it? Because once you start talking and once you start opening up a little bit, just that inch, you give that inch, and people
yeah,
actually think
but
it's
that becomes
comfortable.
a massive part of their day.
Yeah, and it's a freedom aspect at the same time, so they're not trapped within themselves. They can actively talk to like-minded people. It's kind of like sharing life experience at the same time.
It is. And one of the great things about sheds, one of the taglines for men's sheds, well, internationally, is men won't talk face to face, but they
Yeah.
will talk shoulder to shoulder.
Mm.
If you put a broken lawnmower on a bench, at the end of the day, you will have six friends.
Yeah.
A lot of things will have been resolved. Fears will have been just done away with, and you'll
Yeah.
have a fixed lawnmower as well.
Maybe.
Touch wood, yeah. I think the concept of men's sheds, it's so unique in terms of, like you just said, the shoulder to shoulder aspects, because that is a big factor in terms of men's support, if you would, is language. We talk about language, we talk about
Of course.
therapy, we talk about psychology, all of that. And it's actually a barrier to some people because they think, oh, I'm not doing this, I don't want that. But
You think it's going to be judged?
yeah,
Mm,
but they're actively doing their own therapy by
Yeah,
talking to other men, aren't they?
yeah.
yeah,
Most of us do know that how to resolve these things, but you just need that little bit of reassurance to take that first step.
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I
I
totally
think
get
so.
you.
There can be a lot of pressure around, trying to encourage somebody to go and talk to somebody, whether that's one on one or a support group or whatever it is. But I think with the sheds, the real draw about it is it's they're a safe space where people can talk if they want to, but there's never any pressure to do so. So, Eddie will be able to tell you better than me, but there'll be people who go to sheds for months or years and they might never open up, and then one day they'll talk about something that's happened to them or that they want to share, or they might never need to talk about it because being there might just be enough
Yeah.
to kind of support them through whatever it is.
But it's also the fact as well. It's like you just said. It's not for men, not just for men. It's for also
Mhm.
for women, and people come through, and you see before they see beforehand what you're going through before you do.
Yeah,
That's-
we have people who pop into our shop on a daily basis. They're
Yeah,
not members of men's sheds. They're not members of Bootle Tool Shed.
mm,
They just pop in of a morning and say hello, and sometimes they will stop for a coffee. Sometimes it's just to have that little bit of interaction.
yeah. And I think the pandemic was a massive impact, had a massive impact on people, and people was defined to their own quarters, say their own gardens, that sort of stuff. And I think taking such a valuable resource and taking it away and actually bringing it back, it's brought more people together in terms of, just like you said, then popping in for a brew, just having that bit of a chat and letting that release out and being there with people.
Yeah, we were lucky during the pandemic that as a mental health support group, which it's not
Yeah,
a phrase we like, but we were able to still get together, whether it was in our sixes or we
yeah,
were lucky enough that we had two buildings that we could split people. But we we're in a retail unit, so we sell items that allowed us to stay open during the pandemic,
yeah. I think
and that
it's
was massive for the community as well.
I think that's the knock-on effect, isn't it? It's not just the people involved in it, it's the people on the outside, the people
Yeah,
popping in for a brew, or the people who might just pick something up and say, oh, I like that, I'll buy that.
yeah,
Mm, yeah.
Um,
And I think, as Eddie said, yeah, the pandemic was, yeah, it was tough on sheds, and luckily, Boothel was able to kind of stay open, within the guidelines. But there was a lot of sheds that did kind of went above and beyond, really, and they weren't able to meet in person, but they had that connection and relationship with their members, so they still supported them. So a lot of sheds were doing things like online meetings, they were doing doorstep drops to members, they were doing. Saw one that it was shed in a bag, so they'd put bits of it was like bird
yeah,
box kits that their members could make at home. So keeping people connected and engaged, I think it could have been a lifeline for people. Definitely, that the
absolutely.
pandemic
I
was
think
hard. I think.
it's that cut off, isn't it, from community to people and actually being real people and not just a service. You actually
Yeah.
being there for everybody at the same time. So, from a national perspective, then, are there any aims or objectives for the man sheds, or is it just come along, get involved?
It's well, I suppose our aims are one of the things we always kind of say is that we want a shed in every community for every person that wants to access one. There's some areas of the UK that we call them shed deserts, but there's places where there's not many sheds. Um, you know, uh, in relation to the amount of people that there are, or the types of communities that would benefit from one. Some areas where there's loads of sheds, but I suppose focusing on those places where communities could benefit from sheds. We've got a team of volunteer ambassadors who do great work in supporting sheds, new and existing, to kind of get off the ground or kind of overcome challenges. And one of the other things they do is kind of promote the movement. So, like Eddie here today talking about it, for men's sheds to just become a bit more well known, so that when you talk about men's sheds, people know what it is that you're talking about, and they know that the benefits it can have and why a community might benefit from one.
No, no, I totally get you. I think, and it's also that stigma aspect as well, isn't it? It's reducing that stigma. Just if we take turn around again, it's the language, but we talk about mental health, and it reduces that stigma in terms of, you've always got a shoulder here. You can come and talk to us. You can come and get involved, and like you said, some people might not open up for weeks, for months, or even years, but still be a member and still be there supporting other people.
Yeah. A lot of our members, sorry if you can hear background noise, we are in an active workshop, but we, some of our members will know more about the guy on the next bench than they do about members of their own family.
Yeah,
But there are also guys who come in and they're very, very quiet, but
yeah,
when they're not there, you know,
yeah,
you can get that feeling that without them even saying anything, and we are lucky that we get that. If somebody is having an off day, you know straight away,
yeah,
and that's the beauty of having a tight knit group, that they're not here asking for help,
yeah.
but being here is helping them.
That I think it's that massive knock-on effect, and what Rachel was just saying there about the shed deserts at the same time. You find this in terms of mental health and in terms of themes. There are people will reach out on specific stuff, but then the scale of mental health is massive, but they'll only talk about this or they'll talk about that. Whereas then there's a massive desert of not people not talking about specific stuff. So it's kind of that trying to not drill it out of them, but trying to get them to talk. Whereas you've got that community within themselves, like you've just said there, you can't if someone's on the next bench and they're going through something, you can tell if they're not there type of thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think the approach in sheds, as we've said already, it's that it's a space that's kind of open if people want to talk about stuff. And the one thing as well that you'll always see when you go into a shed is like the atmosphere and as Eddie said, a tight knit group, that relationship between members. And there's always people having a laugh. That's the nice thing as well, is
Yeah,
people will be taking the mic and laughing, and I think that can encourage a lot of sharing as well. It's not formal, it's not, as you said, it's not a
yeah.
formal service. It's it's what people need it to be, and I think that humor and friendship can go a long way in encouraging people to talk about mental health without it being a big deal.
Well, that's just Britishness all over, really, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
the going in, having a laugh with someone, ripping each other, and I'm not saying bullying, but I mean
Oh,
ripping each other where you can have a laugh with each other.
yeah. It's there's no pressure. If
Mm,
if you don't want to be here till 11 o'clock that day, it's not like a workplace,
yeah,
but it's people do get that workspace feeling
yeah, yeah,
of being together. That they've got a common goal to get a project finished, but you could be two guys building two bird boxes on either bench, and they will, you'll
yeah,
get two different, completely different things, and it depends how they're feeling on the day,
yeah.
and that's fine.
No, I totally get that. I think it's also you you strip back everything, strip back politics, strip back personal views about anything and everything. It's actually just a person centered approach, isn't it? So
Yeah, definitely.
that two different personality aspect from you could have Bob who is very materialistic, he likes this, he likes all the flashy things, and you could have Dan who basically likes minimalism, and
Yeah,
it's like chalk and cheese meeting each other, isn't it?
yeah, definitely, and that wouldn't happen in a pub.
Yeah,
You stick with like-minded people usually, and in a workplace, it can become a bit clicky.
yeah,
Whereas here, if they've got, well, in most sheds, if they've got a common goal, we all know why we attend sheds,
yeah,
because we all get out of it what we need to.
yeah. It's I think from a national perspective where we talk about you're trying to get sheds in areas where There isn't sheds, and you've got ambassadors working the ground. It's kind of like a boots upwards approach, isn't it? It's forget your hierarchies, forget everything like that. It's about community knowledge and spreading the word that way as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very much. And I think that's the best way it works is it's, we can't force people to have them. I think people have to want it. And I think the more ownership people have over something, the more likely it is to last and the more that they'll get from it. So we're here as a support. And as Eddie's saying, there's people from all different backgrounds, whether it's people have got an interest or in the craft kind of side of things, if that's been their background, or if it's been the people side of things, or if it's the management kind of side of things. There's all different reasons why people get involved in starting sheds. Um and yeah, I think it really does help to come from the ground up, and it will last longer.
it's the
I think
people
it's really
skills.
inspirational. Sorry,
Yeah,
go on, Eddie. What were you saying?
It's the people skills. We've all
Yeah,
got different areas of our lives that we've got some experience in.
absolutely. But we've
And
all
when
got
we
we've
come
all got a
together,
story as well, haven't we?
definitely, yeah,
And I think it's that togetherness, what you've just said there. It's that hand in hand approach with people and to make stuff work.
yeah.
Um, how does a men's shed work then? So is it, do you set specific projects or targets, or do you get stuff from the community? Or if someone was to come to you tomorrow, what would they expect?
Well, shall I answer that?
yeah,
So, if somebody comes through our door and says they want a bird box, fine. We usually have a lot of them because they're what we start our new members on. And we
Yeah,
don't start them on because they're a simple project. We start them on because they, our members will find out where everything is just
yeah.
by building a bird box. They'll,
Okay.
they'll, they'll find out what they need to ask for. And we're quite unique in sheds because we are in a retail environment.
Yeah,
So we have people who come in and ask us to make things. We do work for faith groups, community groups,
yeah,
local authority, and our members are really, really talented. So
yeah,
they, a wide range of skills. But what we always say to our new members is fill a membership form in,
yeah,
get a pair of boots on, and that's it. You are in. We don't want to know your life story.
yeah.
If there's something to find out, we'll find that out.
I think, do you know, it's really the way you say that. We don't want to know your life story, but you're all there for a reason, and you know the
yeah,
reason why you're all there. So it's that sharing aspect at the same time, isn't it? So
Yeah,
whilst you, I think I'm linking back to when because when I ran something similar, um, we had a varied range of people from. I had a 92-year-old man. I had an 18-year-old boy, and it was kind of like talking about life experiences from the war to modern day age type of stuff. And it was really insightful just to listen because people are like human libraries, aren't they?
yeah,
We've all got some sort of story, we've all got some sort of issue that we've had and experienced at the same time. And I think the men's shed, it's the men's shed is just an umbrella name. It's just a logo, effectively. It affect the bigger aspect of it is men and women coming together and just talking and actually get
yeah.
involved in community-based projects.
yeah,
I think as well, just touching on what Eddie said about, the different kind of things that they do is, sometimes people may think, oh, men's sheds, like, well, I don't know anything about woodwork or whatever it is. And
Yeah,
well, one of the nice things is it's like a real skill sharing element. So there's people,
yeah,
well, as Eddie said, real talented people who've might have done it the whole life, or had it as a hobby or done it as a career. But there'll be people who join a shed because they want to learn something, or they want to learn how to build a bird box or put up some shelves or make their own, whatever it is. So you'll get people who've never done it before come in, and there's people who are really experienced craftspeople as well. So it really is something for everybody what they want to get out of it. And every shed will have members with different skills. So you'll find some sheds are doing metalwork, some are doing, I don't know, pyrography, some are doing wood stuff. Like every shed will be doing something different depending on the skills of the people there.
I think that's it. And as well, it's bringing all them skill sets together, isn't it? To like Eddie's just said, then when a new member comes through the door, boots on, glasses on, we'll start you off with a bird house, and these were all the tools, right? And then it's giving them people the opportunity to open up at the same time. I think it's such a great little. community asset. It's a wider aspect than the community asset, but on a more local level. I think just for people that being able to reach out and no stigma attached to it, because we we're in a day and age where mental health is so prominent, where we talk about being stressed, being overworked, being burnt out, and this is an opportunity. It's that escapism. You can actually escape that reality for a good few hours and have a brew with someone, build a birdhouse, link in with people, and open up effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, we offer a signposting service. We're not professionals in mental health, but the majority of us have gone through some type of mental struggle, whether that be personally or know somebody that has. So we we're not an authority on it, but
Yeah,
we can say we are. I know he spoke to him or her,
yeah.
and that was resolved for them.
And
Yeah.
sorry, it's the same with us as the resilience hub. So, whilst we have the organisational aspect of the NHS behind us, essentially we're a service here to bypass waiting lists for mental health support instead of people being on a waiting list for 2 or 3 years. But we do have the professionalism behind us, so it's folk like yourselves, the grassroots again, who interlinking with each other. We are so far apart in terms of the scales of the professionalisms of what we do. But actually, when you think about it, it's about coming together, that togetherness again, and bringing people together along with that journey. So we're not too far apart from what we currently do as each other's organisations, are we?
Yeah. And I think the thing about sheds as well is, they're there, they're connecting people together, as Eddie said, all different people that may not have come together otherwise. It's people who, in some cases they might just be sitting at home, not being not having anything to do. It's giving people routine, it's giving people, giving back to the community, purpose. Again, as Eddie said, it's not a work environment, but sometimes when people have retired and that's been their whole life, that kind of
Yeah,
structure, yeah,
They
people
missed that.
around them, yeah, they miss that. And I think it fills a lot of kind of ticks a lot of boxes for people who might need something, but
yeah,
it's yeah, it's avoiding kind of any kind of medical intervention. It's just supporting people
absolutely.
who might be at risk of becoming isolated sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest factors is just being able to talk to people, isn't it? I have a question now for you then. If someone, for example, in the police force, was struggling, needed someone to blow off steam to that sort of stuff without the medical intervention side of stuff, what would your recommendation be for them for a men's shed?
To establish a men's shed.
Oh no, just come into a men's shed, just get involved in a men's shed.
We on a daily basis will have people who come to us, may not be members, they may be members, and they will come to us and they will tell us about their day.
Yeah,
And that can be their trigger to either take it further and
yeah,
seek medical or any mental health help,
yeah,
but it might be enough for them to work it out in their own head that they don't need it, and
Yeah,
it can be massive for somebody. I've had guys who've said to me, I never thought of it that way.
yeah,
And I wasn't intending to give advice,
yeah,
or someone else wasn't intending to give advice, but it's just rationalizing things.
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And
And I think if
sorry, go on.
people are, sorry, I was just going to say, if people are interested, there's a number of sheds around Cheshire and Merseyside, and you mentioned our map before. You can go on our website. It's mensheds.org.uk. We've got a find a shed map. You put your postcode in, and it throws up whatever's in your area. Um, Cheshire Merseyside, we have got sheds around, but it's not an area where there's as many probably as there should be. So, you know, as Eddie said, if somebody wants to establish a shed, we can
Yeah,
support with that as well. But I know, some of our volunteers have done talks. We've got a number of ex-police officers as volunteers, and they've done some talks for current police staff. Obviously, we've done talks for NHS staff as well, um, because people in those I guess services do deal with a lot, and maybe kind of have a lot of things that the average person doesn't experience. They go through all kinds of traumatic things supporting other
Yeah.
people. But yeah, men's sheds could be a real good outlet for them to, as Eddie says, just talk about their day, share it. Maybe that's all they need.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, I'd love to continue this conversation because it's also bringing back memories from when I did something like this, from decoupaging stools to making bird houses and getting all of the splinters.
Get your
Um,
boots on and get in.
I wish I had the time and capacity, and I'd be straight down there. But as you can tell, I don't live near Liverpool. I live up in Blackburn with this lovely northern dulcet tones.
Well,
Um,
the shed's up there as well.
that's what, yeah, there is indeed. Yes. So I'd love to get one final takeaway from you. What's your views just on general men reaching out for help and support? What would you recommend for them coming getting involved in a men's shed or just reaching out in general?
Speak to somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I think, as we've said all the way through this, if you go to a shed, you're not going to get asked to tell your life story. There's no pressure. You can just go, enjoy whatever it is you want to enjoy. And if you want to talk, then you can. We hear all the time from people saying that going to a shed has actually saved their life,
yeah.
and that never gets less shocking to hear. But it is the reality of it.
Oh, it's true. This is the thing. It's that knock-on effect, isn't it? Brill. Well, thank you both. You've been amazing. It's been really insightful. Unfortunately, we have run out of time though. If you or a staff member or colleague are struggling with your mental health or well-being, the Cheshire and Merseyside Resilience Hub is here for you. We offer free psychological interventions, completely confidential. Um, just have a look at our website, have a look at the resources available. What we'll do, we'll also share the information for Men's Shed and also the Bootle Shed as well,
Brilliant.
if anybody wants to get involved in it. So thanks very much, guys. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers, Lee.
Thanks.
Cheers. Thank you.